What if a single ticket could change your entire life? He bought the last train ticket that night, believing it was just another ordinary journey home. But that decision led him into a small, forgotten town, where a stranger would turn his whole life upside down forever. He was exhausted after a long day, his mind clouded with the simple desire to get home, to collapse on his bed, and to forget the weight of the world pressing on his shoulders. The station was nearly empty when he arrived, its high ceilings echoing with the faint shuffle of hurried footsteps and the tired voice of the announcer. At the ticket counter, there was only one ticket left for the evening train. He didn't think twice. He reached into his pocket, handed over the cash, and clutched that small rectangle of paper as if it were nothing more than a key to another ordinary night. But it was not. The train itself was dimly lit, the carriages filled with scattered passengers, some already drifting into sleep, others staring blankly at glowing screens. He found his seat near the window and leaned back, the steady rhythm of the wheels humming beneath him like a lullaby. Outside, the countryside rolled past in shadows, fields stretching into darkness, small towns flickering by with their lonely lights. For a while, he allowed himself to relax, to imagine the comfort of home awaiting him. But then something changed. Hours into the journey, just when the night felt deepest, the train suddenly shuddered. The wheels screeched against the rails and the lights flickered. Slowly, the machine came to a grinding halt. Silence followed, uneasy, unfamiliar silence that settled over every passenger like a heavy blanket. The conductor's voice broke it. "Mechanical failure! We'll continue in the morning. Please remain calm." Murmurs spread through the carriage, sighs of frustration, groans of disbelief. But he sat frozen, staring out into the dark field beyond the window. There was nothing but shadows and the faint outline of a distant station. Finally, restless and unwilling to remain trapped in the stale air of the carriage, he rose and stepped out into the night. The station was little more than a platform with peeling paint, surrounded by a handful of quiet streets. The air smelled of wood smoke and damp earth. Old street lamps flickered like tired eyes, casting weak pools of light onto cracked pavement. He pulled his coat tighter around him and began to walk, unsure of where he was going, only knowing he couldn't sit idle in the dark. That's when he noticed him, a man sitting on a weathered bench outside what looked like a closed grocery shop. He was staring at the sky as though searching for something hidden among the stars. His posture was calm, almost too calm, as if he had been waiting there all along. Their eyes met, and the stranger spoke first, his voice low but steady. "Strange night to be stranded, isn't it?" It was a simple question, but it broke the ice between them. He nodded, and before he realized it, he was sitting beside the man on that cold bench. Their words began casually, about the train, about the town, about the inconvenience of it all. But as the minutes stretched into hours, the conversation deepened, like a river suddenly revealing hidden currents. The stranger spoke of life's unexpected turns, of doors that closed too soon, and others that opened when least expected. He talked about missed opportunities, regrets, and the fragile balance between chance and choice. His words weren't rehearsed or poetic. They were raw, real, and they struck him like echoes of his own unspoken thoughts. For years, he had carried doubts about the work that drained him, about the relationships he had let slip away, about the dreams he had shelved in the corner of his mind, too afraid to reach for them. And here, under the flickering streetlight in a forgotten town, a stranger he had never met was giving voice to those very fears. Time slipped by unnoticed. The town around them was silent, windows dark, streets empty, as if the world had vanished and left them alone in a pocket of eternity. The cold air bit at his skin, but he didn't care. He felt lighter, as if by speaking with this man he had shed years of weight he hadn't realized he carried. At some point, the stranger turned to him with a look that pierced deeper than words. "You think this night is wasted," he said quietly, "but sometimes being forced to stop is the only way to start again."
The sentence lingered in the air like smoke, impossible to ignore. He wanted to ask more, to understand how this man seemed to know him so well, but before he could, the faint blush of dawn began to creep across the horizon. The stranger stood, brushing the dust from his coat. "You'll remember this night," the man said simply, "because this delay is not an accident. It's a beginning." And with that, he walked down a narrow side street, his figure swallowed by the early morning mist. The train was repaired by the time the sun rose, its whistle echoing through the quiet town as passengers shuffled back aboard. He returned to his seat, but nothing felt the same. The familiar hum of the wheels no longer lulled him into indifference. Instead, every sound, every vibration carried with it a new clarity. In the days that followed, something inside him shifted. He looked at his job, once a cage of routine, and saw it for what it was, a choice he no longer wanted to make. He looked at the people he had distanced himself from, family and friends left behind by excuses, and reached out, slowly, nervously, but sincerely. And then came the dream he had buried long ago, the path he had convinced himself was foolish. Now, for the first time, he dared to take steps toward it. They were small steps, clumsy even, but they were forward. And each one felt guided, not by certainty, but by the memory of a voice in the night reminding him that change begins when the world forces you to pause. Months passed, and the stranger's words became a compass. He stumbled, he doubted, but he did not stop. He realized that life had always been a train rushing forward, and he had been content to let it carry him without question. That night in the forgotten town showed him he could choose a different track. Years later, he would still think back to that night when the train broke down. He never saw the stranger again, though sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, he swore he could hear that calm voice reminding him not to fear the delays. For it was never the broken train that changed his life. It was the last ticket, the chance encounter, the decision to listen when fate whispered. And so, he carried that night with him forever, not as an accident or an inconvenience, but as the turning point of his life. The night he thought was wasted turned out to be the night that gave him everything.